Have you ever looked at a map and wondered, why is Canada still Canada? Why didn't the United States, a country that expanded westward across an entire continent, ever conquer its massive northern neighbor? Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating what if of history. In 1775, even before the Declaration of Independence was signed, American forces marched north. The goal? Invade British-controlled Canada and convince the French-speaking population to join the revolution. Two American armies, one led by Richard Montgomery, the other by Benedict Arnold, advanced into Quebec. They hoped to strike a quick blow and spark an uprising. But they were met with snow, sickness, starvation, and fierce resistance. Fast forward to 1812. Tensions with Britain were rising again over trade, impressment of American sailors, and western frontier conflicts. President James Madison declared war, hoping that by striking British Canada, the U.S. could land a quick victory. Former President Thomas Jefferson said it would be a mere matter of marching. But the war turned into a disaster for the U.S. One reason the U.S. failed? Strong alliances between the British and indigenous nations. Leaders like Tecumseh united tribes in fierce resistance against American expansion. For many indigenous people, siding with the British was a way to stop U.S. settlers from encroaching on their lands. And British military support from across the Atlantic made Canada a much harder target than expected. By the mid-1800s, the U.S. was in full expansion mode. The idea of manifest destiny that America was destined to rule from the Atlantic to the Pacific gripped the public imagination. But while the U.S. annexed Texas, fought Mexico for California, and claimed Oregon, Canada remained untouched. Why? In 1867, Canada officially became a self-governing dominion of Britain. It wasn't a colony anymore, but it wasn't fully independent yet either. Canadian leaders formed a confederation, partly in response to fears of American aggression after the U.S. Civil War. They built a railway across the country. They welcomed settlers to the West. They forged a distinct Canadian identity, one that was proud, bilingual, and peaceful. By the 20th century, the U.S. and Canada had gone from rivals to partners. They fought side by side in two world wars. They formed economic alliances. They shared intelligence, security, and culture. The idea of conquering Canada had faded into history. Today, the two nations share the world's longest undefended border. Over 400,000 people cross it every single day for business, family, and tourism. So, what if the U.S. had conquered Canada in the early 1800s? Maybe the continent would be ruled by one flag. Maybe French language and culture would have been suppressed. Maybe American settlers would have poured northward. But maybe not. Canada's sheer size, climate, and cultural resilience could have led to resistance, even rebellion. And let's not forget forcing democracy on people who don't want it. Doesn't make them free, it makes them conquered. In the end, the United States didn't conquer Canada because it couldn't, and eventually, because it didn't need to. Canada developed on its own terms, becoming one of the world's most peaceful, prosperous nations. And the U.S. found a neighbor, a partner, and a friend. Sometimes, the greatest power is knowing when not to conquer. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. What do you think would have happened if Canada had become